Hey, sports fans, welcome back. Down and Dirty. Scott and Herman here. So glad you could be a part of our day today. Okay, we promised you guys that we were going to get crazy. We were going to get down. We were going to get dirty, and we did that today. We went turkey hunting, and I'm just telling you, when I say this, I think it was going to be a big old cluster. You know what? And it wasn't. It was epic. Like, it was life changing. It was so, like, oh my goodness, exciting, exhilarating, so much fun. And
I can't tell.
oh, look, you can't tell?
I can't
You
tell.
have no idea. Listen, Herman here, dude, he is freaking Elmer Fudd like you would not believe. This guy, one shot, it was epic. I had a lot of pressure on me, and I had to deliver, and it was just fascinating. So some of your thoughts, because I have a ton of thoughts about this, and they kind of relate to sports. That's what's crazy. So we went turkey hunting. This is something Herman set up, and it was just epic. And tell us a little bit about what happened when we went on a turkey hunt, Herman.
Well, I'm going to break it down, man. This was great. So I didn't realize when Scott and I, again, we've been friends since our playing days, and he would always tell me about these excursions, all these things that he would go and do. And I became very envious because he's in Hawaii, he's in Utah doing, enjoying the state and all the beautiful things to see that's there, the landscape, the topography, all this stuff. And then in Michigan, we have the same things. And I have to admit, I have not taken advantage of what Michigan offers in terms of travel tourism, the hunting, the wildlife, the outdoors life. And I've started to really network with a lot of people in that space. And so in doing that, they're always offering me the opportunity to go out and have these excursions, to go out and really participate in this other part that I have completely and totally neglected. Shame on me. So now that I've gotten involved with it, it's become just part of what I want to do. My son, my older son, he's one who really enjoys that space. He's guy that does anything and everything from jumping out of planes and parachuting to climbing, mountains and all this other stuff, and surfing, and he does it all, right? So a good friend of mine at Double D Ranch up in Michigan invited us up. They have about 220 acres. And it's a beautiful lodge, beautiful ranch style. It sleeps about 10, 15 people easily, comfortably. Fire pit, industrial kitchen. And then you just got just this beautiful, open area. And so I invited Scott. I said, Scott, I know that this is something that you've told me about, and I've been really, really, really jealous about. So I ended up doing that and said, Scott, come back in town. Scott's been generous enough to take time out from his family and from his time in Utah to come here, spend that time. So we've bonded over that. And I said, the first thing we're going to do, because we got plenty more to do, everyone. There's a lot more we're going to be doing. So you have to make sure you continue to follow us and check us out, not just here, but all the little social clips and all the other pieces that we'll put out there, and just really going out and seeing the journey of Scott and Herman, the Mitchell and Moore, QB1, WR1, the whole nine, right? Give us whatever you want. And we went turkey hunting. We got our license. The most difficult thing for me to do was get my license, because if you just saw Scott and I really at the other night at the ranch trying to get our licenses together, we needed help. We needed a little bit of assistance. But once we got it done, we got up at the butt crack of dawn. We got up at 4:30 a.m. because my understanding is that's when they're available and ready. And we did the calls. We got ready. We got out. We got our film crew so that we could capture the moment. And man, it did not disappoint. Went out and they made the calls. We sat still, and then right there, bam, you just follow. So I'll be real brief. So they said, listen, you're going to shoot the one that comes on the left. They want to call two turkeys for us. Shoot, Scott's going to get the one on the right. I'm going to get the one on the left. He's to my right. And we get one. We get a Tom. He comes walking in, and he just flies in, and he's doing his dance, and he's checking it out. He's not quite sure. And then he comes into view. And right there, he was in my sight. And he was walking real slow. He was chilling. He was doing basically just the pimp walk. And then all of a sudden, he decided to speed up right when he got to my site before they said, unlock, get ready to pull your trigger. He takes off. He starts to run really fast. He runs out of my site. I pull it up out of the tripod. And then all of a sudden, I had to wait till he did a little bit more dance. And then boom, your boy did it. I got my first turkey. Oh. First turkey, one shot, one kill. And it was wonderful.
Well, what was great about it.
So I had to give you that story.
No, it's a great
So that's
story.
The whole thing. So when you see it and we put it out there, you could follow my my narrative there and the way I narrated that.
So what's cool about it is we had seven camera angles. We had more camera angles than they have in the March Madness guys shooting 3-point shots to win basketball games. So it's really really cool. We'll show you the footage of it. It's unbelievable. And so what was fun from my perspective with Herman is he couldn't quite see the turkey, right? So
It was on
it's
my far
coming
left.
from his left, and it's kind of obstructed from the tree line because they fly into open spaces and there's trees all around everything. And so I'm watching this parade, this turkey strut his stuff, and it's all about sex. I mean, that's this whole thing is because these tom turkeys are protecting all their hens. And there's another turkey that's coming in, and he wants to have sex with all the other hens. And so that's the problem with this whole thing. Because you know how we all get really dumb when we get in those situations.
It's like
And
turkey porn, man. Like
well, it's not porn. I mean, this is the natural cycle of life. Like it started. It's the truth. It's like the turkey is protecting his turf and he's got his hens, and no other turkey's going to come in and get his hens. And what happens is they get dumb, and so they get in this big old fight. And like we have a decoy, right? And the Kiefer brothers, right?
yeah,
These
Chris and
guys,
Casey. Yeah,
yeah, they are amazing. They're just the coolest guys in the world. They're filming all this, and what was cool for us is they told us everything that was going to happen. They go, the bird's going to fly out of the tree right here. He's going to walk along here. He's going to do his dance, and he's going to come up to the decoy, and he's going to attack it. Like just like this bird was so mad that he attacked something. It's like going into a department store and seeing a mannequin and like jumping on it and trying. It's like you're in my turf, you're in my area. Like it's not even alive, and it's
he
it's
thought it was
so
another time.
he did, and so he jumped on top of it, started spurring it, and all this stuff, and so it's just the whole thing to me is absolutely fascinating. Now this all happened like within. I mean, we sat down and within I don't know 20
20
minutes
minutes. It wasn't
from
wasn't long.
it was just and so now it's like now it's my turn,
Mhm.
and so they're like, well, here's what we're gonna do now. Um, the birds are with the females. And so they're not really calling right now. They're not really talking, but in a few minutes they're going to kind of go out on patrol and they're going to protect their area, and anyone encroaches on their area, then there's going to be a problem, right? And so that they're going to go these turkeys are going to fight each other for their turf, for their brood, I guess is I don't know what do you call a pack of turkeys, a brood? Anyways, Broden, they're protecting the Broad. So the Kiefer brothers, they're calling the turkeys. They go, oh, they're over there. So we all six of us with camera gear go marching through the woods, and we set up on the edge of these trees, and they're like, okay, it's gonna come from right in front of you, and it's gonna come down this little trail. And sure enough, 5 minutes later, here comes the turkey. Same thing as Herman's, and it's right in front of me. I see the turkey the whole way, and of course, I'm like, I don't want to miss because Herman he shot his I don't want to be embarrassed. That it only took Herman like one shot to shoot a turkey.
I think I don't know if I had a 20 or a 20 gauge, or if that was it might have been a 20 gauge I used, or
Oh,
it may have been a I don't think it was a 16. I think it was a 20 or
yeah,
a 12.
yeah. So I'm just and I have this tree in front of me, and I'm like, if it gets too close, I'm gonna shoot the tree. I'm not gonna shoot the turkey. So I was kind of in a little bit of an awkward position. At any rate, this thing comes in, and it's so much like a football game. And we've talked about this on the show before. Like the hardest throw to make in the NFL is to a guy that's wide open, and that's what it was like. It's like, and what happens is you panic. So you see this thing coming, your heart starts beating, and you start shaking, and you're like, okay, I just got to be calm in this situation, and so you settle down, and then you just you wait, and you patiently wait for the right opportunity. And it's so much like an NFL game where there's just a window and you have to be patient and you have to let a play develop and you have to just be prepared to hit a receiver, throw the right pass in the right moment and in the right location. And like, one of the things that was fascinating is most of a turkey is like feathers, and if you don't shoot it in the right spot, then it's not a good thing. So very, very much like an NFL game. But what was cool to me, one of the things were our guides, and they were just incredible, and it was fun to watch them because they're really pros, and they've really spent the time to understand their craft, and they were just brilliant at what they did, and they executed their job to perfection. I mean, every word out of their mouth, they go, "Okay, we're going to sit here. The bird's going to come here. It's going to come into here, and you get to shoot it right here, and make sure you do." And everything they said was exactly how everything happened when Herman shot his turkey, when I shot my turkey. It was just incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty smooth, and I'm glad you mentioned that about the instructions. And I mean, that's one of the biggest pieces to make the experience that thing. That was my first turkey hunt. I've never been on that before. Before that, the only other hunt I'd been on was for I, had my first deer, and I think that was 18 point, which was great. One shot, drop, no movement, perfect shot. And as you get into it, you appreciate it, and it's not just going out and just gaming. It's more than that. We're going to take that, and then you're going to dress it, and you got to dress it, and do all the other stuff, remove the feathers, and you're gonna make sure that it doesn't go to waste. And the same thing happened with the deer. But what I wanted to say that you had touched on, Scott, that was cool was it's those moments, man. It was the experience of trying something different, but then when you can do it with not only the guides and the enthusiasm that they have, it wasn't about a transactional piece. It wasn't about, oh, we're just here with Herman and Scott. They really enjoyed what they were doing, and you can appreciate people who really get excited about their craft and about things they're passionate about. And on top of that, their company, the Rusted Rooster, is a marketing and video production company, does a fantastic job of doing that. And I know they have a series called The Drop, where they go and spend days to weeks out in a remote location, and they have to survive. So that's the team that was shooting this for us, and we can't wait. They showed us some of they got Scott's turkey coming in doing his little dance or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden it's in slow motion. It's in 120 frames a second, so it becomes a pretty cool deal. So that was pretty special. And then they show it back to us, and it's like, wow, this is pretty sweet. I can't wait till you guys see it. So I look forward to when we have an opportunity to post that up and give you kind of an insight to that. But we're going to be doing a lot more of that, beyond just here we talk sports. We talk a lot about different topics that are exciting, but we're also going to share with you and take you on journeys with us, as we do that on the show as well. So definitely make sure, again, you subscribe and you like, and that you be a part of this, because it's more than just talk sports or some type of a talk podcast. This is something that we're sharing experiences as well.
So, and thank you for that as well, because I'll just tell you, when we got set up this morning, and Herman and I are sitting there, and we both have guns. We're going to shoot turkeys, and they were hoping to call in two gobblers at the same time, but that's not the way it happened. And I just remember sitting there before anything happened, going, if I just sit in the woods today, it's such a beautiful, peaceful morning, and if Herman's the only one that shoots a turkey, like, I'm totally happy. Like it really is. It's the relationships you have with people. It's developing and strengthening those bonds of those relationships just through experiences in life. And it's one of the things I believe to my core, that the people that matter to me are, it's spending the time with them, and the quality time, and just enjoying the moment. And this whole experience with being down and dirty, I just love it because it's real, it's authentic, and it's really about sharing our lives with you, and our experience. And so this is just the tip of the iceberg. Did you ever look for, like, a team, or you look on the schedule and you go, oh man, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this game. We played some epic Monday night games at home and on the road, and of course Thanksgiving. But was there a certain team you wanted to play, or a certain team that just jumped out at you when the schedule came out?
Anyone in the NFC Central Division, I enjoy playing those teams. I enjoy playing Minnesota, Chicago, Green Bay twice. There's an opportunity. It's tough when you play inside of your division. All we want to do is win all our home games and split on the road. That was going to put you at a 12-4 record every year. And I think that's a good milestone because I mean to really dial in and go, we want to go undefeated. While that's great, it sounds good on paper. I mean, this is the NFL. You're going to be facing teams. You're going to have up and down parts of your year. You're going to have injuries. And it's not that you played less and you don't have those expectations to go undefeated. And I don't want anyone to get that misunderstood. But the reality is, you go out and you try and play 16 solid games. You try and go out and play 16 complete games. You try and minimize and mitigate any of your opportunities for things to go wrong and having lack of execution and effort and all those things. If you play 16 strong games, and if you can win your home games and you can split on the road, I think most people will see that as a successful season and an opportunity, because not many teams are going to go 13-3. And this is back in my time. This isn't this
Right.
17 game piece. This is our time. And if you saw teams that were 13-3, 14-2, the more you went up, you knew there were very few teams that were going to possess that type of a record, and it was going to fall somewhere in that 13-3 to 14-2 as your division winners or the top conference leaders or those that are going to have home field advantage or first round playoff buys. So you'd be right in striking distance. But you had mentioned something that about a weaker division, and I want you to. I'm going to challenge you on that a little bit. Just when you look at a weaker division, for instance, which divisions, if you know at this moment, because I know the schedules just came out, we haven't evaluated all the teams from last year and compared them to where they are now. What constitutes a weak division? How do you determine if it's going to be a weak division? There could be historical pieces, but it all is dynamic. Things are constantly moving.
Right.
And we hear that all the time. And I'm not challenging you so much as we hear it. So explain that to me, like when you say a weak division.
Yeah. So here's a weak division. So the example I used was during our time where the 49ers were playing in a division that they're pretty much going to win both of those games. So you talk about splitting on the road. Well, there's your split right there, just playing in your division. You look at the Patriots and a lot of the championships they had, Tom Brady, that division with the AFC East was not very good. The Jets, of course, they've never been good. I say that I shouldn't, every once in a while in a blue moon, they're good. The Miami Dolphins, the Jets, the Buffalo Bills, kind of got good at some point. So they had an easier path in their division because you are going to play those teams multiple times. And so that's definitely easier. You look at like today, a division to me is like the NFC West. You have the Rams, a whisker away from going to the Super Bowl. The 49ers, who I thought were going to be down, they've really been able to rally around losing some key players and having some key players injured like Fred Warner, but they were still super competitive. And then you have Seattle, who goes, Seattle might have been the third or fourth best team in that whole division going into the season, and you go, they were the best team in that division. And so and of course the weak team in that, and it's not necessarily every team, because the Cardinals are in that division as well. So but for the most part, it's hard. And what happens, in my opinion, is that you beat up on each other, and so it's really hard. You just have hard. There are games that are easier than other games. There's opponents that are easier than other opponents, and so that makes it challenging. Another question I want to ask you was, like, between the AFC and the NFC. So I played in both conferences, and I can tell you, when I was in the AFC with the Miami Dolphins, it's like we never really thought about the NFC. Like you're kind of really hyper focused on your conference, because your conference champion goes to the Super Bowl and you play mostly in your conference. And then it flipped when I went to the NFC, and it's like, it's like, oh, okay, we play this AFC team this year. We don't really know them very well, and you really got familiar with the teams in your conference when you played in a conference, which is a different dynamic. Did you find that to be the case when like playing out of conference games, like an AFC opponent?
I did, and I actually didn't like the fact that we stayed within our conferences. And this is something I would say we've looked at all the things that have changed, in sports, and we look at all the different rules and all the different configurations and the addition of expansion teams over years, and um, the reshuffling sometimes of teams. But I would be curious, what if, just what if, they got rid of the AFC and NFC? You had a 32 team field, and then it's just this random way in which you're going to play each other, and you allow teams to kind of play each other. You figure out the schedule to where, yeah, you're going to have some overlap where you play maybe a handful of teams a couple of times, and I don't know how this would shake out. But then you're just taking the best two teams. It doesn't matter which conference they come from. It's about playing the league, because I think if you do that, you can change, I think, what, and not in my opinion that it's become stale, but it's almost like there's a line that divides everything, and everyone thinks that their conference is either, just to your point that you just mentioned, there's strong conferences, there's the weak conferences. I don't actually buy into that, and I really don't, because you don't know which conference is going to be dominant from one year to the next year. Now, you can look at the talent that is spread across the league, and you say, well, this conference has more talent, this division has more talent. But injuries happen, players become disgruntled, coaches have off years. There's play calling. There's all these things that have to work together, and that's why coaches say it's really hard to win back to back. We even had this discussion before. You look at New England and teams that have had four, five, six, seven Super Bowls. That is phenomenal, because that is almost improbable, a thing to occur and happen. You look at even a storied franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers, they get up to six, and then all of a sudden it's like trying to find that next one can go, half, 5 years, a decade. It could take some time to just get back to the game itself, even though you keep winning your division. So I look at it and I go, I would like to see, and it could be a novel thing. It could be something that the NFL has contemplated or looked at. And now we see that they're expanding it, playing games overseas. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some international teams start to join the NFL at some point, especially those that are a little bit closer. To travel's a little bit easier and it's not as taxing. It's almost like a West Coast game extended. But at some point, I'd like to see it become kind of a whole league thing, and the two best teams are playing, because every year we make a case, and and you've seen this. The two best teams aren't playing. Sometimes you got the two worst teams that shouldn't be in there.
Right.
And because you're getting some of the top teams that are beating each other and cannibalizing it, and then before you know it, the others have the ability to go. And I think it happens across sports.
Yeah, they recognize, I think, the NFL where they have the flex schedule, where they do a good job of picking, like, especially Sunday night, where they go, yeah, we're gonna make sure that we get the best teams right now, and the NFL knows this, that, hey, attrition, injury, like you said, bad coaching years, the coach loses the locker room or whatever, and the team just goes down the toilet, and you don't know that before the season starts. So the ability to actually, change games on the fly, it's almost like you want to you want to do it across like every week. It's like the only games we want to see are the great matchups. We don't care where they are, and if it means getting interconference play, all year long, then that's I would imagine the NFL would certainly be willing to do that. There are rivalries. There are teams that have those traditional rivalries. You got the NFC East, the traditional Cowboys and Giants and Redskins, or not Redskins, Commanders and the Eagles and some of those, and of course the black and blue, the old black and blue division. There's a lot of those natural rivalries. One of the things that I really look forward to, and it was those Thursday night, or Thursday day games, whatever, when you played on Thanksgiving. Like, I just really loved that part of the schedule, and I love Monday Night Football. I love playing on Monday night. It meant something. It doesn't seem to mean as much today. Sunday night is kind of taken over, but I don't know that the players really like it as much. I didn't like our opponents. Like, I really did. I did not like the Green Bay Packers. I love to play in the division. I love to play against them, all this stuff. But there was not this kumbaya love, fest. Give me your jersey. Let's take a selfie at the end of the game. It's like, I hated those guys. And I liked that about, you talk about the competitiveness of it. does he has the NFL lost that, and is it a good or a bad thing? You know, when you schedule and you play opponents, I mean, is it good that we hate our neighbors and hate our division opponents, or do we have to hug and kiss at the end of the game?
So I think that it's changed because there's a dynamic that's changed, I think, over the years. The players have started to spend more time in the offseason with each other. They've started to create opportunities together. You see players having joint ventures and business relationships that didn't exist before. You also start to see them coming together and just vacationing together, and their rivalries and all these things. So there's relationships, and I think social media and the access that is being given, you no longer have to physically go somewhere to establish a relationship or some type of communication with a player or someone that maybe as a perceived opponent. And then you can see the dynamics when these guys are done playing. It doesn't matter if they're winning and losing. There's a lot of smiles that happen. You still got some old school guys that are hardcore, and when the game's over, it's all about the game, and then we'll talk about our friendship, our relationship, our whatever, kumbaya and all that stuff you mentioned. We'll talk about it later. That's the way it stood with us because we didn't have those touch points. We didn't have the ability to reach out unless you were going to physically put a lot together or it was done over, whether it be email or something a little bit different. Now, the video conferencing to coming on their podcast, and that's one of the biggest thing. It's to network with the players while you're playing, and when you're networking with them, you're creating that natural dynamic that happens that says, listen, we're going to be friend and foe in two capacities. One, we're friends when we want to come on each other's podcast. We're going to network. We're going to have a part of this social media um, um, atmosphere that's the boom, and then we're going to create that relationship outside of the sport. And I applaud that. I think that's a great thing. And then they're able to turn it on and off and say, now we're going to have that competitive piece, but it's almost like a friendly competition. It's no different. Like, we talk about when you and I, we go play golf or we go out and we do some things, and we get highly heated and we're competitive and we want to win that thing. But at the end, we're really not competing against each other. I think the way it would be if I go, I don't really care about you. I don't care about your family. I'm there. I don't care about you're not going to blindside your friend. You're not gonna crack back on that guy like we used to do because it's gonna create bad blood and it's gonna create an issue. So I think it has changed. I think the relationship dynamic part of it has changed, and I don't think it's ever gonna turn back.
So Cam Newton recently decided, or he thought, why did they sign that guy? Why did they bring that guy in? What's wrong with me? How come I'm not there? I know I can play, and can he play? Have you ever felt this way? Is it because I know when I was sitting there and on the sidelines, Herman, and after 12 years in the NFL, and they decided that my time was up, and I would watch these guys get signed, and I'm like, why am I not? I'm better than that guy. Why I'm not playing? Is does Cam Newton can he play still?
Let me say this: I can't speak to where he is conditioning wise. I can't speak to where he is in terms of continuing to hone in on his skills to make sure that based on the level of competition and youthful part of this sport that takes place, if he could actually be as competitive as he remembered. And I say remembered only because yes, we have our accolades. We have what we've done in the past. When we try and fast forward that, one thing we can't outrun, we can't outperform is time. And that's aging. And that is, if when we train to be those elite athletes and have that elite athleticism, it comes at a cost, meaning it's training, there's regimen, there's practicing, and it's not practicing periodically. It's not practicing for viral videos. It's truly going out there and you're competing against your teammates. You're competing against opponents who are just as good, if not better, all the time. And you're doing it to where it feels natural. You're in that space. I can tell you right now, when you step away from anything that you haven't been doing at that maintained level of excellence, it is improbable. Is it impossible? I would not say it's impossible. I think there's some things that come with when you get older. You learn that sometimes you don't have to work as hard to get to the same, if not better, results because you're doing it with efficiency. and you're doing it a little bit more craft, you're doing it with a little bit more skill. That's how we get longevity in sports. That's how you get players who can extend their careers, because as they slow down, they seem to accelerate and get better because of their craft. Having said that, I don't think, and again, this isn't a criticism. This is take it as a challenge, take it whatever it is. If teams aren't calling, they're calling because they're probably seeing that. If you think about it, yeah, can I go out and catch a pass? Absolutely. Can I go out and run a slant? Yes. Can I go out and run hitch routes? Yes. But can I run 12 yards and up the field and beat the coverage and come in and out of a break with the same? If I trained and prepared right, I will not be at the same place I was when I was in my 20s, but I would be able to do those things and have those precisions. It may not be as fast, it may not be with the same strength, it may not be with the same, athleticism, but that doesn't mean that's up to par and that is up to snub to be able to be what we would consider an elite athlete today because of what we did in yesteryear. So the only thing I would say in criticizing that is we all feel that we still maintain that certain level of ability even as the window fades, but at some point we have to come to realization, understanding that, listen, some things you just can't outrun, you can't escape, you can't outperform. And we've seen how youthful players are, we've seen how it is a young person's sport, but I think there's a room for a window of continuation, expansion of your career based on how you maintain and stay consistently in the sport and in the training and in the mindset and in the the adjustments and adaptability that is constantly happening in sports.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic to me because your ego says, like, in my mind, I'm like, oh man, I could totally do, in your mind, you just think you can. There's this competitive nature to us, you're hard, you want to be out there, the game, of course I can do this. And that's what gets you there. I mean, that drive and that confidence and that will is so much of it, but it really is a process of where you work at something and you practice all this time, and if you don't have that practice, it's just hard to do. And I look at my the end of my time with the Lions. I mean, my last year with the Lions, I sat on a bench for 14 games. You don't get the practice reps, so really, over what, 3.5 months, you're doing nothing. And the other guys getting the practice reps and getting the timing and getting the confidence and all of the throws, and you just can't simulate that on your own. Even if Cam Newton is out on his own today, practicing, throwing, all that stuff, it's not the same that you have with a group of NFL players in an actual practice, and you're the guy getting all the reps. If you know any good player, and I don't know how it is, I don't know how it was for wide receivers, but I know for a quarterback, you are a rep hog when you're the quarterback. You want all the team reps, all the 7-on-7 reps, because there's not that many, and they're just too precious. One, and two, you don't want the other guy you don't want him to get reps. You don't want him to take your job. So you're gonna keep and fight for those reps and take them, and you can because you're the guy. And say, no, I need to take this. You just said, and very few coaches are going to go, well, you need to let the other guy practice, and they just don't do that. Now, the other thing that is a challenge, like, even if you're really good, like, Cam Newton was a great player and had great got to a Super Bowl just as an MVP. I mean, he's a very talented player. What happens though is if your coaches aren't coaching. So, like, you look at Philip Rivers, I think last year he comes in and plays for the Colts. Well, he played for the Colts already, and they were in a tough predicament. They felt like they were kind of still a playoff team, and if they could just get a veteran quarterback or someone in there to give them a chance, then they might get to the playoffs. They might do anything. But he was around coaches who had coached him. I firmly believe, I don't care how talented Cam Newton is, unless he has a coach that coached him, that had confidence in him, that liked him, you know, then he's not getting a shot. I don't care who you are. I looked at a guy like Ty Detmer, who was one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. He was a serviceable, NFL, you probably say, not really a starter, but a guy you really want to have around. Plays 15 years in the NFL for 5 or 7 teams, all of them West Coast teams, all of them coaches that he'd been with before, including in Detroit. And so it's so much of who you know, and these coaches have confidence in you. You know, Bill Parcells for years said, I want guys, I want the groceries, but I also want the guys that I know and I trust. And so that those guys kind of follow coaches around because that's just how it is. So I don't care how good you are, I don't how, whatever, you're just not, not going to get a shot unless you have a coach that likes you.
Ask yourself this, and this is a question I would ask. Okay, let's say he comes back, he wants to do it. Like, what's the process of evaluation? How does he measure himself up against that? You still have to have certain athletic ability and scramble ability of what we remember. We know that teams are looking for dynamic quarterbacks. They're looking for runners. Okay, Cam can check those boxes. So then you have to evaluate, where is he up to par with that, and then you got to look at um, the fact that over a period of time you can come in, and they call it what, fresh legs, or you can come in and say you've been doing some things, but it's a totally different type of a workout. And then it's really understanding, okay, what's the lift? How's this player going to elevate and lift our team, not only from a leadership standpoint, but also how is that person going to lift the team in terms of motivation, their ability to make areas where we have weaknesses, whether in the receiving unit, maybe you're taking advantage that we do have strong receivers. If we don't, you're able to go out and elevate them because of your ability as a quarterback to say, okay, I'm going to make sure I go through my progressive reads and I can make the right plays all the time. Go back to your prime and say, look at where I was at my prime and how long was my prime peak. And we all have peaks. And when you look at our peaks and you look at the time when we played at the highest level, whether it was ascending to get there, and then all of a sudden there's the ascension that happens and we start to fall down, whether it be system, whether it be age, whether it be lack of reps, whether it be injury, it could be all a multitude of things. Where do you give the confidence after being away for so long that take this chance and this risk on me, put your team in my hands? And he may not even be asking that. He may just be saying, listen, even if I'm on a roster, because I see you bringing in, and it may be he's not asking from a starting position. I haven't followed it closely enough to say he's saying I can be a starting quarterback in this league and I should be a starter versus I should be on a roster. I think that's two different asks, and that's two different things that you're looking for. If he's asking to do that, maybe I am a system. I take a chance on a guy like Cam Newton. If you're going to take a chance on Phillip Rivers, and you're going to take a chance on some of these undrafted free agents, which is some of the things that kind of, I think, perturbed him a little bit, then I think there is a way to say that Cam Newton's not so old he's over the top and that he can't play, as much as is there a place for him in the NFL on a roster? And I, quite frankly, think the answer is probably yes. There is. I don't think he would be the worst quarterback in the league. I don't think he would be the a quarterback that does not have an opportunity, but I just don't think it's one where he's even asking. Again, I'm not going to jump too far ahead with it. I don't think he's asking, saying, hey, I want to come in and I'm going to take over your team and conquer the world. But I think it's more of, why can't I be in the league when I look across here and every team has anywhere from 2 to 3 or more quarterbacks? I can't break into that herd of quarterbacks and have a roster, be
See,
on a roster in
yeah.
the NFL.
See, I don't think the NFL is that smart. I don't think they go, wait a minute, we've
I
got
think
this
it's
guy.
ego too.
Yeah, we got this guy, and he's been a an MVP, Pro Bowler, Super Bowl talented first round draft pick, and he's been out for a while. And I think the NFL goes, yeah, what, no, and I think the reason is like for what you said, he's a guy that could be more of a distraction or more of a problem because he's where does he fit on our team? And it's like, even if he says he's going to be a good soldier, people are going to start going, because if the other guy falters, it's like, well, you got this guy over here, that's got like an incredible resume. I think the NFL is not smart enough, and I think the only time that a guy like Cam Newton gets a shot at this point is if they're just totally desperate. I don't think in this like time of the year where, hey, the draft just happened, we're signing these guys, we're going to give them a good hard look, maybe they have some potential to grow into something, and so he's just not the guy for us right now. I actually 2 years. So I 2 years after I ended up playing, so played 12 years, and for 2 years I trained like, and I tried to train where I could just step off the bus if a team called in the middle of the season, and I would be season ready. So my practice routine was like I'd go to practice every day by myself a lot of the time, and I'd go through, okay, here's the throws I'd throw in one on one, here's the throws I'd throw in 7-on-7, here's the throws I'd throw in a team situation, and I would literally go to practice every day for a couple of hours. And finally, after 2 years, a team called. It was the Oakland Raiders. Mark Trestman, again, a coach I knew, was the coordinator. And he goes, I've told him, like, we don't have a quarterback out here. And Scott Mitchell's sitting out there, and I know him, and he's, and I trust him, all that stuff. So I go out to Oakland, and I'm gonna get a tryout with the team. And I go out on a Friday, and they're going to try me out on Saturday, and they go, yeah, we're going to wait till Monday. We kind of want to see what happens with our game on Sunday, and we'll get an idea. So I wait through the weekend, and Monday morning they're like, yeah, we're not going to work you out because we're not going to have things are going to change around here, and so we just don't see you in our long-term plans. And really what they were saying is, we don't even want to take any chance that you might be any good, and we actually might win, because we'd rather have a higher draft pick at this time. So teams are really reluctant to do it. You look at Randall Cunningham. He was running a tile business in Las Vegas, and he'd been out of the league a couple of years. He signs with Minnesota. He kind of has a relationship there. And I believe Brad Johnson gets injured, and that's the only way he got a chance to play. I just think the NFL is not smart enough to look at these older players. And I think it is that ego. It's that reluctance to, man, this guy could really come in and disrupt timing. And it's just not worth it to us. I think that's the whole thing with Colin Kaepernick when he wasn't signed. I think it was really one of those things where you just go, yeah, it's just not worth it to us. We don't know. We don't know what we don't know. We don't want to find out. Yeah. And you could be the smartest, best decision we ever make, and we just go, we don't care. We're not going to do it. And I think I think Cam's in the same situation.
Right. I think he's perceived too as I think Cam is a perceived threat to some of these coordinators, to your quarterback coaches. The fact that I think he resonates with the younger generation of kids, that because he's in the game, he's in the visibility game of his podcast and his community affairs, and going out to these youth camps and being around some of the collegiate athletes and organizations and programs. So Cam has a brand that exists without needing to necessarily be in the NFL. And because of that, if he comes in, he's going to be right in that sweet spot of resonating and I think appealing to a lot of the younger players, that even your more veteran quarterbacks who are 8-9 years in the league may seem far removed. They may be seen as less approachable than a guy like Cam Newton, because he's shown that he can be that kind of guy. He's shown that he wants to be, let's call it the dog. He wants to be an alpha when he's there, and because of that, when you have that perceived threat, I think that also will become a deterrent for teams and organizations that are looking to bring you in, because you do become a threat to their authority. And we already know if that happens, and if there's a perceived lack or loss of control by those that are in charge, then that kind of flags you as a player. It flags you as an individual that potentially can become disruptive. So, for Cam, I mean, if it happens, which I doubt it will, if I'm a team and I'm in a situation, I'm looking at some of these quarterbacks, and I think he's worth a workout. I think he's worth a player bringing in and seeing if he's capable, and that puts the end to it. But I wouldn't necessarily wait till the season starts and wait till there's something, a player goes down or there's an injury. If you think he's really viable, bring him in. Bring him into your camp now. Bring him in the off season. Give him a workout. Let him go through some of those things. It's no harm, no foul. Yeah, it's one roster, but it's good. You got 10 players on there you're never going to let play anyway. So why not bring in someone who may be just a missing link, that in the event you get in a critical position of quarterback that goes down?
Well, if the coach put me in, I throw the ball over the mountain. That's all I know.
I know I'd run my hitch route or my underneath, and I'd run my bubble screen and everything else, and continue to add to my stats, because I don't think I'm going to run away from anybody right now. I'm just being honest. But I think I'm still capable of doing a fade in the end zone, right corner, left corner, working the backer over the middle. You get me in the red zone, I still believe I would be a threat. But in the open field, I just think that I'd be okay but I don't think I'm going to compete with the elite guys. You know, your time can pass. But let me just stop playing. I'm kidding. I know I still go do it. Hey man, I'm just trying to soften the blow for a lot of these guys that are old heads that think they can still do it. And I know they really can't because you can't. I can. I really, really can.
I think I'd pay to watch Herman Moore play today. We'll see.
I'd be able to do it.
Yeah.
I think I'd do it. At least I give it a try. I give it the $50 million try.
All right, there you have it. This has been the Down and Dirty. Thank you so much for joining us today. He's Herman Moore. I'm Scott Mitchell. Thank you, Chrissy. Thank you, Martin, for all you do. And thanks to you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Have a great rest of your day. And until then, we'll see you then.
Hey, Scott, you got a turkey call before we leave? Oh, my God. That's why I shot mine first. See you guys. See you soon. That's awful.